Hi viewer, welcome to the YouTube channel. I'm Harisan with the third part of ReactJS interview questions and answer. So let's get started. The very first question of the day, what are the advantages of using ReactJS? So look, ReactJS has several advantages such as it is easy to use and understand, it is fast and efficient, it supports both server-side and client-side rendering. It is a component based, making it easier to develop complex applications. So question number two, what is the difference between React.js and React Native? So look, React.js is a JavaScript library used for developing user interfaces, while React Native is a framework used to create mobile applications. ReactJS is used to create web-based user interfaces, while React Native is used to create a native mobile application. So using React Native, it is an advantage that we can develop a cross-platform application using React Native. Cross-platform applications mean for Android and iOS both by writing just one code in JavaScript in short we can say, because React and React Native used what? JavaScript. So what is an arrow function? So look, an arrow function in JavaScript is a shorthand way of writing a function expression using the equal to greater than, that is arrow type arrow syntax. It is a feature that was introduced in ECMAScript 6, that is E6 in short we say, and provides a more concise way of writing functions. So look, here is an example of an arrow function. For example, constant 8 and then equal sign, then round brackets, then equal and greater sign, which is represent arrow, and then inside curly brackets we will write our code. So this is a simple syntax. Here the parameters are passed, that is a and b, and then we return, for instance, something from these parameter by doing something with it, and this is what we add up these two, a and b, which are passed to this arrow function through arguments, through parameters. So it's a return what? The summation of these past two values. So look, this arrow function takes two parameters a and b and return their sum. The arrow syntax replace the function keyword. Look, here is no function keywords in the arrow function syntax, and the curly braces can be omitted if the function has only one statement. May you know are these, which is a regular programming language concept. In this case, the single statement is a return statement that returns the results of adding a and b. Arrow function has some advantages over regular function, such as a shorter syntax, implicit return for a single expression function, and lexical scoping of these keywords. However, they also have some limitation. As you know, everything has advantages and disadvantages. Like that, arrow function has also. So, such as the inability to use them as a constructor or to bind them to an object. So we can't do the constructor work from it, as well as cannot use a type of, we can say, this keyword, and for the binding purpose what we do, we can't do with arrow function. So, what is the purpose of using ReactDOM.render methods? I think we have discussed in the second part of the ReactJS interview series, but let's discuss this here too. It's very important. We omit upon this because it's already created. If we start npx create react app, so then we have no more work with index.js where this file is located, because we play with the app.js and call our other pages inside the app.js. So it is important to know about this. So look, the reactDOM.render method is used to render a React element into the DOM. As we write our code, so to make or to display this code on the browser on the DOM, we actually use reactDOM.render inside React. So look, it takes two arguments, the React element to render. The first argument is what? The React element to render, that is app.js, something like that file, and the DOM element to render the element. And the second argument is the DOM element upon which we want to post to display our the first to our first argument, and first argument is our React element. For example, it will be like that in the first argument we are passing our app.js component, and in the second parameter we are passing, for instance, dev, which will have an id. For instance, you can see this example practically by exploring your index.js page inside your React application. So, question number 5 of the day: how is React.js different from other JavaScript framework like Angular and Vue? So look, first of all, that ReactJS is a library rather than a full-fledged framework. May you all now familiar with this term, that React is a library, not a framework. Often these two words are used interchangeably, that library and framework are same, but it has a little difference. So look, which means that it is a lightweight and focus on UI components. It is talking about the ReactJS, that it's lightweight and focused on UI components, while Angular and Vue, on the other hand, are full-fledged frameworks with the more features and capabilities. So then why we are using ReactJS if the Angular and Vue has a more features and capabilities? So look, the syntax, the code structures, the understanding capability of using React is very simple. So that's why React.js is most use, mean people use it instead of Angular in Vue, just because of the simplicity of code and understanding. So after that, React.js has also their own advantages and disadvantages. Like in Next.js, we achieve the server-side rendering, dynamic routing, SEO optimization, etc. In the Next.js, which is considered as is a React framework. So what is the server-side rendering? How does it work in React.js? So server-side rendering is the process of rendering the initial HTML of a web application on the server side, instead of on the client side. This can improve performance in SEO, as well as provides a better user experience for the users with a slow or unreliable internet connections. React.js provides a built-in support for the server-side rendering through the libraries like Next.js. So as I told you before, in the last question, that for the better performance of for achieving the better performance of React.js, we use their framework or their library, that is Next.js, which is rich in the term of providing the facilities of server-side rendering and SEO. What is JSX? So maybe I'll know, are you familiar with this term, that JSX is nothing but the thing, mean the HTML we write inside our React code is JSX. So look, JSX, that is JavaScript XML, we can say, as an extension to JavaScript syntax that allow you to write HTML like syntax and your JavaScript code. It is used in React.js to define the structure and content of your UI components. What are the lifecycle methods in React.js? So look, React.js components have several lifecycle methods that are called at different stages of the component's lifecycle. As we have discussed these in the previous lecture, I guess, such as when it is mounted, updated, or unmounted. So for the purpose of mounting, updating, and unmounting, we have these three included in the component's lifecycle. For example, these methods include component did mount, component did update, and component well unmount. So look, these three, mounting, updating, and unmounting, each has four. Like one of them for the mounting is component did mount, for update is component did update, and for unmounting is component will unmount. But these three are listed here because these three are frequently used, and these are exactly with these names functions are used inside the class component. What about functional component? So the function component, we achieve mounting, updating, and unmounting using use effect. So how we can achieve the component did mount from use effect? So component did mount, if we pass an empty dependency array to the use effect, it's mean that we are achieving component did mount, for example, calling APIs inside or other side effects. So for the component did update, if you pass an dependency array to the use effect hook, it means we are achieving component did update functionality from the functional component using use effect hook. And what about component will unmount? So to achieve the component will unmount, we use a return function inside the use effect. So hope you got this. Move to the question number 9 of the day, that what is the significance of virtual DOM in React.js? As you people know that React is use virtual DOM instead of real DOM. So what is the significance of using that? Look, the virtual DOM is a lightweight representation of the actual DOM, which allow React.js to efficiently update the UI in response to change in the application state. For example, in the real DOM, if we update the real DOM, it will update the whole DOM. But we are not doing like that in the React.js because React.js has take the copy of real DOM, which is called virtual DOM. And if we change state or something other, so only that only that portions of the real DOM, sorry, of the virtual DOM get updates, not real DOM, of the virtual DOM gets update. So it is a big advantage of using virtual DOM, which is actually a copy of the actual DOM. So it's minimize the number of actual DOM manipulations required, as I said earlier, which can improve performance. What is the difference between state and props in React.js? Maybe you people know that what is state and what is props. So props are the read-only values that are passed from a parent components to a child component, while state is an internal data stores that is managed by the component itself, like we declaring variable in a simple JavaScript. So to achieve this act, we can say in the React.js we are use states. So you are familiar with the state and props, but props are used to configure a component, while state is used to manage the component's dynamic behavior. What is the difference between controlled and uncontrolled component in React.js? Commonly asked question in the interviews. So look, the controlled components are components whose behavior is controlled by React.js through its state management system. So we have many state management techniques, like using a simple props technique, passing from one component to another, and using a third party like redux. You can also achieve state management system using a context API, use context hooks etc. So maybe you will be familiar with this if you haven't touched it yet. So down to detail, these are the very important and most commonly asked question as well, that what are you use for the state management? So you can say redux and context API. So look, uncontrolled components, on the other hand, are the components that manage their own state and behavior outside of React.js. Question number 12, how would you handle user input validation in React.js? One way to handle the user input validation in React.js is to use the form validation libraries like Formic or Yup. So if you are not use these libraries, that is Formic or Yup, so use it. It's used separately as well as and it's used in the combination with each other, because the Formic or Yup in the most of time use combined, because it's interact with each other efficiently for the displaying message, like we use Formic. So for the validation purpose, exactly displaying messages and testing that what has been inputted, we use Yup with the Formic. Another way is to write your own validation logic and handle it in your component state management system. If you are not want to use an external library like Formic or Yup, so then you can go with your own logic by handling it using your component state management system. So question number 13 and third last question of the day, that what is the difference between React.js and React Native? We already discussed in the last questions, I guess. React.js is used for building web applications, while React Native is used for building native mobile applications for iOS and Android, which is called cross-platform. React Native uses native components and APIs, while React.js uses HTML and CSS to render the user interfaces. How would you optimize a React.js application for the better performance? So look, there are several ways to optimize a React.js application for the better performance, such as using memorizations, code splitting, and lazy loading. These three techniques are controlled and used inside the code, like memorization your code, code splitting technique, and lazy loading. You can delve into detail for this by watching a separate video on memorization in React.js, like code splitting in React.js, and lazy loading. And performance profiling tools, so profiling tools like React Dev Tool and Chrome Dev Tool are very essential for the debugging purpose. So these two are just used, we can say, for the debugging purpose, that is the React Dev Tool and Chrome Dev Tool. But code splitting, lazy loading, and memorizations are handled and used inside the code to do what? To enhance the performance of the existing React app. So what is server-side rendering and how does it work? I think this question has already been discussed in the previous question, but it's repeated here. So look, server-side rendering is the process of rendering the initial HTML of a web applications on the server side instead of on the client side. Like in the regular JavaScript, if we think, we use what? Rendering our component on the browser, that is on the browser, that might be Chrome or other, so that is actually a client side. But server side rendering is the process of rendering the initial HTML of a web application on the server side. This thing is achieved by using the React library Next.js to achieve the server side rendering from the React code. So look, this can improve performance and SEO. This is the big advantages of Next.js, that using Next.js you can achieve SEO, you can achieve server-side rendering, you can achieve dynamic routing, as well as provides a better user experience for the user with a slow or unreliable internet connection. So React.js provides built-in support for the server-side rendering through the library like Next. So this is a built-in library of for React.js, which is called Next.js. So you can achieve the server-side rendering, which is built in this library, and the other performance, that is SEO, and in the simple React.js without using the Next.js library, you can achieve SEO and can improve the performance of your React application by using some other techniques. So we'll meet in the next lecture. Till that, ijazat dijiye. Allah Hafiz.